There's a lot of confusion and misinformation swirling around about impeachment, the rules, witnesses, evidence. So let me just, because I speak fluent bullcrap, let me cut through and translate bullcrap right directly to English, which I think you speak. This is how impeachment trials are supposed to work based on the Constitution and precedent. But first, how did we get here? Okay, Constitution gives the House of Representatives the sole power to impeach. To be impeached, it's like you were indicted. Yeah, not a good thing, but you weren't convicted. Basically, the House acts as a grand jury. Some politician comes in and says, there's a crime. They were shooting people out in the hallway. Of course, it was with Nerf bullets, so it's not really a crime, but our side really hates this guy, so we're going to go after him. That's allowed in impeachment. Rule of law? No, not so much. But impeachment, guy's got Nerf bullets. He's shooting people in the streets with Nerf bullets. They could make that case. They get together in their committee and they say, we've got to do something about this guy with crazy Nerf bullets. And they gather evidence and they hear testimony. Oh, he shot me in the hallway. I thought I was going to die. Well, that's what the Intelligence and Judiciary Committees under Adam Schiff and Jerry Nadler feverishly worked on last fall. In my opinion, it is the case of the Nerf bullets. But then the House voted and has to vote on as many articles as they can come up with. These guys came up with 2 whole articles of impeachment recommended by the Judiciary Committee: abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. Now, abuse of power can be obstruction of justice. That's what they were going to accuse Nixon of. He wasn't even impeached. He quit before they ever got to that because of abuse of power. What was he doing? He was trying to silence people. He was lying to the American people. And it all came out about with the tape, the smoking gun, that, yeah, he knew about it the whole time. Okay, abuse of power, using the CIA to make things easier for him. That's abuse of power. This abuse of power is the president holding back money until an investigation happens. We've already gone through what that investigation means. I don't think that's abuse of power. I think that's what a president should be doing, and that's what presidents do all the time. Anyway, in some Christmas miracle, it was a surprise to most people, the articles passed right along party lines. It was weird. They voted, and it was 230 to 197 and 229 to 198. So only 2 Democrats voted no on abuse of power, and then 3 voted no on obstruction. But it's obstruction of Congress. Obstruction of justice would be an abuse of power, and another article, obstruction of justice. This is obstruction of Congress. He didn't respond to them and do exactly what they said. Well, he's a separate and equal branch of the government. He don't have to. The Supreme Court has ruled on that over and over and over again. So the idea of obstruction of Congress is a joke. Now, a majority vote in the House is enough to impeach the president, which just means, yep, we're going to open up a case and have a hearing about you. Now the process moves to a trial phase, and that moves over to the Senate, with our 100 distinguished senators acting as the jury. Eventually, after several weeks, it'll feel like about 2 years later. I'll have even gone more white, and the senators will vote guilty or not guilty on each article of impeachment. Now, to be removed from office, 2/3 majority, or 67 of the 100 senators, would have to vote guilty on one of the impeachment articles. No president has ever been voted guilty. No president has ever been removed. Johnson, who was a nightmare, he still stayed in office, missed it by 1 vote. With the current Senate makeup, that would require at least 20 Republicans to vote with 47 Democrats to get 2/3 majority vote. Ain't gonna happen. Sounds pretty simple and straightforward, except that the Constitution doesn't provide much detail on any of the procedures. In fact, these are all the constitutional provisions on impeachment. That's it. So basically, the House impeaches, the Senate conducts the trial, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court presides over the Senate trial, and that's all it says. The rest of it, we just kind of fly by the seat of our pants. Now, the Chief Justice role in the impeachment, he is the head of the Supreme Court. It's a lot less powerful than a judge in a regular courtroom. Now, this again is precedence. Chief Justice John Roberts can rule on things like, the relevancy of questions. But he basically is simply a referee because he can be overruled by a simple majority of senators. If Roberts decides not to settle a particular issue during the trial, he can just say, you guys figure it out. However, one controversial issue is what he should do if there's a 50-50 tie on the vote on anything. Now, normally in Senate committees, tie votes don't prevail. So many senators argue that it wouldn't be fair for Justice Roberts to step in and vote because he would essentially be acting as an extra senator. This could be a big deal if a vote comes down to allowing a particular witness or a piece of evidence. And there's not much precedence on this. During the impeachment of Andrew Johnson in 1868, Chief Justice Salmon Chase broke 2 ties on procedural deadlocks. But in 1999, under Clinton, Chief Justice William Rehnquist, he did the opposite. He took his hands off of the bike. So what is Roberts going to do? We don't know. Speculation is he's going to act more like Rehnquist because he clerked for Rehnquist in 1980. But then again, everybody thought that he was going to vote against Obamacare too. I'm just saying. Now, if you've been paying attention at all, you've probably been hearing about the Senate rules for the impeachment trial. Who's making the rules? Again, the Constitution doesn't leave much direction beyond the Senate being in charge of the trial. That means the Senate gets to make up its own rules, and the Supreme Court upheld that constitutional authority in 1993. Fortunately, senators are not totally starting from scratch this time. In 1999, the Senate updated the rules that were established for the 1868 Johnson trial, and Mitch McConnell's plan, which he circulated last night, indicates that he intends to follow those rules updated in 1999 with a couple of tweaks. Now, assuming the Senate approves that plan today, here's how the trial's supposed to go. Nancy Pelosi's Avengers, also known as the House impeachment managers, will present their case before the Senate as the prosecution. Then President Trump's lawyers will present his defense. Now, during the Clinton trial, as spelled out in the Constitution, each side had 24 hours of total time to present their case, spread out over 3 days. Sorry, it's not in the Constitution, it is in the rules in 99. After that, senators will be able to ask questions, but here's my favorite part. They're not allowed to speak. They can only submit their questions in writing, which is fantastic. Why didn't we have impeachments with these guys all the time? We never have to hear them. Anyway, senators aren't allowed to talk at all during the trial or have any kind of electronics with them. They'll have to limit the amount of time during the Clinton trial, it was 16 hours, to submit their written questions to Justice Roberts, who will read them aloud. Now, the question part of the trial, there will likely be more votes on allowing additional witnesses, or they could vote to end the trial and move on to the final, are you going to convict him or are you going to acquit him? We don't know how that's going to go now. You've also probably been hearing a lot of back and forth in the media about calling witnesses to testify at the trial. Democrats are acting like the witnesses are guaranteed dagger, rope, and candlestick with, Mr. White in the library. It's everything. Never mind that we've already heard hours of testimonies from 18 witnesses in the House committees. Still, Democrats are pinning their hopes on more witnesses because they know their case is the weakest impeachment case of the 3 in U.S. history. Not only was it a bad strategy to get this thing going, it's bad strategy, it's worse strategy to get this thing going and then hoping that something juicy and new will turn up. The reality is the Senate makes the rules and witnesses are not a requirement. Since every witness is subject to Senate approval, whoever the Democrats may get, Republicans will get somebody too. Democrats are salivating over the chance to question John Bolton. Great, but I'd like to hear from Hunter Biden and the whistleblower. What do you say? Democrats should be careful for what they wish for. So, I've explained how the process should work. But the Democrats have already abused that, using the media to claim Republicans are rigging the process and aiding a Trump cover-up. It's all just part of a show, well-choreographed talking points to try to make themselves look like patriots saving the republic. How's it actually going to go? We're just going to have to watch it now, aren't we?